Right, so up until this point, I have played just about enough of Age of Wonders 4 to give a very comprehensive reception of my review to really share what I think about the game. And I played, by the way, I no-lifed the living daylights out of Age of Wonders Planetfall. I really liked that game. I liked the landmarks, I like setting up all the cities, and expansion was a little bit different in that game. The plots and all the provinces that you're annexing, each and every single one kind of held a little bit more value, and that's only because there was less of them. In this game, there's a lot more provinces to annex. And for whatever reason, a lot of the provinces, they matter that much less. Now, you can take up a lot more provinces than you could in the previous game. So in the previous game in Planetfall, you would be making a lot of colonizer units, and then you would be running all across the map, throwing them everywhere, making about like 5, 6, or 7 cities. In this game, you're only going to have about anywhere in your average game, you're going to have anywhere between 3 to 5 cities. That's pretty much the most basic, generic number that you're ever going to find yourself capturing. I also have to say, it seems like wonders are landmarks. Planetfall's landmarks are wonders in Age of Wonders 4. Wonders in this game, they seem a lot less meaningful or useful. I think that landmarks in the previous game meant a whole lot more. In this game, they kind of seem like toss it up in the wind. They kind of make a difference, but not really. Also, I think the landmarks in the previous game were a lot more interesting. Now, by the way, this review is coming out a month after the Primal DLC released, which is the 3rd DLC from these developers. I also have to mention that I've played the Dragons DLC and the Primal DLC the most. I haven't really played that much of the Reavers. I have fought against them. I've used some of their units, some of their mechanics, some of their hero items, so I kind of have a gist of what they're about, kind of what they are. I haven't fully experienced them, really. But to put it short, I've pretty much experienced all the content within the game. Some of it is a little bit more intimate than other content in the game. And ultimately, I have to say, I think there's a couple of elements. This is what's really weird. There was a bunch of pitfalls about Planetfall. So many things about Planetfall that was just annoying to deal with. But there's plenty within Planetfall to like. And there's plenty within Age of Wonders to like as well. And there's plenty to hate about Age of Wonders 4 as well, similar to Age of Wonders Planetfall. There's a lot of things that they inversed, there's a lot of things that they changed, and a lot of things they modified. And in that essence, there's things to hate and things to love about it. The racial traits in this game, they're pretty interesting. I like them for the rough part. I like creating your civs. I like picking out the culture, and the cultures are largely interesting. I like the tome system, as its trade-offs from a research tree, but for the large part, I like it. I think it's good. I like the transformations and that they're free, and that you can do unlimited minor transformations opposed to the major transformations where you can only do one. And all of the major transformations, they're interesting enough for you to want to experiment and use them. They're not really groundbreaking, they're not doing anything that crazy, but it's a nice little bit of flavor. The Tome 5s are kind of interesting, they're not really that great. I have to say, I think a lot of the combat spells in this game, for the large part, they're kind of useless. I don't really think that they're that good. I think Astral probably has the best tier 5 and 4 tomes in the game. And by the way, tomes in this game are basically what opens you up into a certain selection of units that you can research, spells that you can research, or transformations that you can also research, whatever. Just opens up new unlocks that specializes your builds. And the higher research that you have, the more of these tomes that you can get. It's basically how it works. The unit diversity in this game, although I would say that there seems to be a decent bit of unit diversity in this game, to some weird extent, I would actually say that there's also less. There's a lot of cultural units but at the baseline, they're very similar in the way that they operate. They're very similar in the way that they fight, with a couple of little tidbits of what differentiates each one. Now, what I do like is that your units can ride cavalry in this game, and some of them are cavalry optional. So I like that. It's a nice little touch. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. I kind of like how they did combat spells in this game. I kind of like how they did special province improvements in this game. That wasn't too bad. I also like how they limited the amount of armies that can go into fights, which is a maximum of 3. So you have to have really good units in each army, and then those units are going to fight each other, rather than the fact that it has to be a bunch of armies surrounding the core army that they're attacking, and that's how you start a fight, right? So you could have an enemy that's outnumbering the defending army, right? And that can be a huge problem. And that was usually pretty frustrating to deal with, that you were getting attacked by more units than you yourself had, and that more than you yourself could also really defend against. So that's a huge improvement. By the way, though, you could get pretty overpowered in Planetfall, so it kind of balances out in that essence, is that you could get really overpowered, and then it really doesn't matter that you're getting swamped by a bunch of enemies. But anyways, whatever the case happens to be, I think that units are a lot weaker in this game than in the previous game. And I also forgot to mention this, you can get racial transformations. They are free and they are unlimited. You can use as many of them as you would like, and they apply only to your racial units. Now, you can also get unit enchantments, which applies to all of your units if they're of the respective type. So certain unit enchantments only modify with a specific buff or some kind of, typically something related to damage, and typically it really buffs up your damage compared to minor racial transformations where they barely really do level up your units at all and make them better, make them do more damage. It's very indirect methods of actually making them do more damage, so it's not really that great. But unit enchantments have a upkeep cost, and each unit that is utilizing that unit enchantment increases that cost, right? Because each one is utilizing the upkeep. So that whole interaction is fine, and I like it because it allows you to really mega boost a lot of your units progressively as you go through the tomes. You're getting more and more transformations, you're getting more and more enchantments, and you're progressively making your units stronger and stronger, and depending on the build that you're going for, they can use better and better abilities, or they can have more and more damage stats applied to their attacks. So eventually you can get to the point of having super units effectively, but that takes a lot of research and it takes a really long time. So it's like, is it really that great? I don't know, bro. It's okay for what it is. Now, again, I would say that there's a lot of unit diversity in this game, but their functional diversity, I don't think it's really there. I think that a lot of the units are actually very similar to each other. They roughly do the same thing. Some of them are different. But a lot of unique units, I think that's actually pretty limited in this game. Because when I look at previous units from Planetfall, Planetfall had very unique units and a good number of them. Now maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's more units in this game, but it just, to me, I think that Planetfall had way more units that behaved very differently from each other, and for that one reason alone, I find that those units are a lot more interesting. I mean, there are so many elemental types, so many animal types. I really do believe that Planetfall just had better units. I think the units were just far more fascinating to use and play with. In Wonders, Age of Wonders 4, I think that these units are a lot more average. I don't think they're as imaginative. I mean, you have a unicorn. All the unicorn can do is teleport and then use a charge attack, which is a single action point attack. That's it, bro. The unicorn really is not that interesting. It doesn't really have that much going on. You have certain units that are a little bit more interesting, but I remember so many of the units from Planetfall, and Planetfall had really interesting units at tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, was there a tier 4? I think there was a tier 4. I think it was a maximum of tier 4. In this game, there's only a maximum of tier 5. So I'm not really sure how much I really like the unit diversity in this game, because a lot of them are very functionally the same. There's not a lot going on with them, and I really do have to say, I think they were a lot more imaginative with Planetfall. We'll see what the Eldritch DLC, what that brings, if it's more interesting or not. I have no idea. But for everything I have to say, I think that the wonders are less imaginative, and I think the units are less imaginative in this game. They also got rid of the cover-based mechanic, which I'm okay with that. It's not like it was that great in Planetfall. Although I would like it if they did try to go in a more like XCOM route with their games going into the future. I think that would be really cool. Try to make it a little bit more arcadey. I think one of the issues I have with Age of Wonders is that games take way too long to finish. And I think it needs to go a little bit faster, or at the very least, they need to make a game mode where it's like you're playing, let's say Halo Wars 2, or you're playing a game that's a sped up 4X kind of RTS strategy game. They need to do something though to make the game go really fast so that you could play. It would be really cool if I could play like 6 matches or playthroughs, whatever, in one day. That would be a lot more interesting. Something like Age of Empires 4, for instance, how fast those games go, but you still feel like you're doing a lot, you feel like you're developing a lot. I think if they tried to make, let's say they just make 2 game modes, I think they need a faster game mode so that people can just play through their games a lot faster. It takes way too long right now, and I do think they need to switch it up, if I'm being completely honest. I don't want them to wreck the game, and they don't have to make it super fast, okay? Maybe just make it where your average game will only take 1 day to play. Let's just say that. But right now, Age of Wonders 4 games, and same with Planetfall, but I think Age of Wonders 4 is actually, I think it takes a little bit longer than Planetfall, if I'm being correct. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I probably am. But it'll take you like 2 to 4 days, if not more, sometimes. It typically averages 2 to 4 days of playing these maps and playing these separate playthroughs. Well, that takes way too long to get through, man. And I love these games. I love Age of Wonders, but it just takes way too long to play the game. I think they need to do something to diminish how long it takes. If someone wants to binge out their game in one day, let's say like 6 hours or even 8 hours in one day, then that 1 day spent should start and finish a playthrough. And they need to start speeding up a lot of elements because so many elements of the game just takes way too long. All the organization, move unit here, move unit there, set production here, set production there. Doing the same thing over and over, there's too much overhead. So they need to start doing something to automate more processes. They need to start setting up the game where everything that happens a lot faster. And I think making it a real-time strategy game would actually be really huge. Technically it is real-time-ish, kinda, but it's turn-based more than anything. Make it more like Stellaris, make it more like Halo Wars, make it more like those games, Age of Empires 4. And I think that would make the game a lot better, because I think what it really comes down to is more speed, move the games along much faster, because it just takes way too long. And there's just simply too much content in the game to experiment with for how long it takes to play. Your average player is not going to interact with even 50% of the game's content, specifically with the separate cultures and civilizations and spells and units attached to each culture. All the variety that's in the game, most players, they're not going to have the time or the reality to put into experimenting with the entire breadth of this game. So they need to do something. Again, it takes multiple days to finish these playthroughs. And although that is something that like Civ 6 kind of does, a lot of these games do this. Including, I think, also Total War, or whatever you call it. A lot of these games, yeah, they do take multiple days, and that's part of the grand strategy genre. So it's like, I can't really completely hate them for that. I can't really criticize it too harshly, but at the same time, they really gotta do something to speed it up, bro. I mean, you're how many games deep into making the Age of Wonders series? You can't just make another game mode that is more accommodable for multiplayer. I mean, really think about it. How many people can actually arrange a group of people or the same group of people across multiple days to finish a playthrough? How many? It's very difficult. You need to do something because you can still maintain the core essence of this game while shortening all the overhead and all the time it takes to do all the overhead of this grand strategy game. Many of the elements that are basically chores, they need to be automated. The chores of Age of Wonders needs to be automated to such an extent that you just don't think about it. It just gets done. It's not so much of a hassle like it is now, and so that people can play the game a lot faster. Because here's the thing, I don't have a problem with long games to play because I like this genre and I like it for all of its cerebral aspects. But let's just be honest, when there's certain elements of your game that becomes a chore that needs to be thrown out. I don't care how much time you think is relevant of bloating up a game, that doesn't matter. Your player needs to be engaged with the core content of the game. I need to be engaged with the core expansion mechanics of my city. That's what I need to be concerned with. The core mechanics of taking over a landmark, the core mechanics of building units, using those units, fighting wars. And by the way, there's so many cool things that they could really do with the essence of Age of Wonders. And there's a lot of things, by the way, that they did with landmarks within Age of Wonders Planetfall that I really liked that they don't do here. Again, landmarks meant a whole lot more than wonders do in this game. I would like to see them add a little bit more depth into the landmarks into a future game or whatever, but whatever it comes down to, I want to see them reduce the amount of chore activities, like constantly having to build certain buildings within your city at some point. And I know that they already have an automate function. I'm talking about something way more specific than this. Again, do it in a certain way, like let's say for instance Age of Empires 4 or whatever. I don't really know which one I can really point to, maybe Stellaris, but you need to develop it in such a way where it's just set it and forget it, okay? I want to be able to just have a city. I don't even want to have to really tick off a box. I just want a city to exist where I provide it the different things that it can upgrade. I can set it on a focus of what to upgrade, and then it'll largely do it dependably. And I know it already does that right now, but there's a certain execution of doing it where it just feels a lot faster and it doesn't feel like you're having to think over the upgrade process as much. And I think one of the things that really hurts this game actually is the boosting system. I see the good elements of the boosting system, right? You build a farm and a certain building slot becomes boosted, becomes cheaper and faster to build. I get it. There's certain elements though that I just don't like about that. They need to do something. They need to figure out how to make it faster. They're trying to do things to make it automated in the way that I am explaining here, but they need to do something more because, and you know what? Part of it could just be make it more simplistic. I don't know. And listen, it's as simple as this. If I were on the team, I know exactly how I would implement this, but because I'm not on the team, any way I explain it, it's not gonna matter. That's the inherent problem. So all I'm saying is just look at a game that makes and in some way automates as well as makes it easier to level up your city and automates so many more aspects of city management that you don't see in this game. I already know how I would implement faster designs. Since I'm not the one working on it though, they just need to figure it out, all right? You need to figure out a system. Look at how they speed up the gameplay process. Look at your own game and look at what's a chore. All right, constantly every playthrough, selecting the building for your city to build. All right, we need to figure out a way, make that fast. Basically, make it instantaneous in some way. Don't make it a cheap mobile game. Just figure out a creative idea, because I swear it's not that hard to come up with a creative idea. I mean, Planetfall has plenty of creative ideas, and in some way this game does too, okay? So there's a way that they can figure it out. Make the game smoother and faster, and specifically do that for multiplayer. Because right now, multiplayer is a mess, and if there's anything that keeps a game alive past its time of release, let's be honest about it, it's multiplayer. And they have crappy they don't have matchmaking for this game. their excuse, basically this lobby system, it sucks. It's terrible. I don't know, a lot of strategy games, they really do suffer with creating a matchmaker and then also just having people play multiplayers. Certain strategy games, they've been able to figure it out, but games like these, they don't really figure it out and they don't do it well. So that's my whole rant about the game flow. But outside of the game flow, I do like this game. I do enjoy playing this game. I like the cities I can build. I like the different play styles that I can have with the racial traits, the racial cultures, with the cultural traits, the tomes and the different tomes you can go with. I like the whole system of heroes in this game, the way that you get heroes. They made a recent change to it. I'm okay with the change where it's every couple of turns you get a new hero. I like it. As I remember, I think heroes are improved in this game. I think I do like them a little bit more, although certain menus are just annoying to go through persistently. I mean, you look at putting gear onto your heroes, it takes too long on console to do it. It's kind of a hassle. It's kind of annoying. What's even more annoying, honestly though, is the item forge. The item forge takes way too long to work with. It takes 4 turns to get a tier 4 weapon or armor piece, and you have to do this over and over and over again, and the entire system of disenchanting gear that you already have takes too long to do. It's annoying to go through, it's annoying to play with, and then not only on top of that, but scrolling through constantly all the options and then selecting the same options over and over. Either they need to set up like loadouts that you've created and then you're slowly trying to build out that loadout. That would be cool. Or they need to improve some kind of mechanic around the item forge. Maybe where when I finish a playthrough with a character, I can keep one of my items on my ruler and that can come with me into every playthrough. So that eventually, if I play enough playthroughs, then I can just have full gear sets on my heroes as I'm playing the game. And because you get your heroes at a slow drip, I don't see the problem in the fact that I'm getting these mega boosted heroes with fully kitted out gear immediately as I slowly accrue more of my heroes. That would just be a much better ascendancy kind of bonus for each playthrough that you finish. Again, there's just so many ways that you could see this game really be improved. And there's so many elements of the game that's such a giant hassle. It really does vex me. And there's so much to it where I see the entire gameplay loop of the game and you are doing, I'm gonna be honest, the core content of the game that you're playing is probably 25 to 33% of the time. And then a lot of the chores that you're going to do, a lot of the, notification here, notification there. Okay, this is your change in relationship to this ruler over here, over there, everywhere, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of annoying. And I'm not really a big fan of that. It takes too long to get through a turn, another turn, and another turn. And there's too many things to keep up with. You're going to forget something in most turns. You're going to be like, oh, frick, I forgot to fight that one army because I was managing that other army and I was sieging that one city over there. And I was actually trying to make that new gear piece over here, and then I was trying to disenchant that one gear piece here, and I executed that one hero over here and I got his loot, so now I need to go put that loot, his armor, on one of my other heroes. You've got all these things. And then let's not forget, I have to annex a new province, and then after I annex the new province, I have to go run over to my other city, and I need to go place within the production queue a new building. It's just one thing after another. So many of these things are so easy to forget because you're going through such a hassle, and it's just, frankly, it's kind of annoying. After a certain point, after you played it enough times, you're like, okay, whoa, all of these systems that I just labeled, they need to be sped up in some way, shape, or form. Speed it up, make it faster. Honestly, it grinds at your player that they're having to do these repetitive systems across multiple playthroughs over and over again. There needs to be something done to make it faster. Everything needs to be sped up faster, faster, and faster. And something huge that would help the item forge is in some way automate it, figure out a way. It can be done, absolutely, but figure out a way to automate it so that it'll start producing for me the gear and the loadout that I want to have built upon my hero. so that every time I play the game and every time I through a new playthrough, I unlock the item forge, it'll get all that gear built up and I'll get that entire loadout for my ruler and for my other heroes fitted and kitted up so that I don't have to do it myself. And really what it needs to be is, listen, there is a menu and UI interaction fatigue in this game. There's too many menus. There's too many, oh, scroll through here, scroll through there, go through here, go through there. Very annoying. I'm not a big fan of it. They need to simplify it. There needs to be less menus and more action. Too much administrational work. We need to start reducing that. We need to have more combat and more core content interaction, right? The core elements of expanding my cities, for instance, just annexing provinces and whatever else. The core elements of the game need to be elevated to the forefront of the gameplay experience. Outside of that, I do enjoy the necromancy build. I enjoy that there's a good number of different type of units in this game that you can make different builds with. I do like that. I like that you can have an animal build where you make them really powerful. I like that the tome system is kind of an improvement on the research tree in the previous game in Planetfall. And I also, by the way, I do enjoy the realms and how you can create these realms with specific modifiers. And they're largely unique modifiers that can really either make your experience a misery, where you're playing on brutal mode, but you're playing with all these other add-ons that just makes the game impossible mode, where literally I don't know how the frick you're supposed to win. Even with a min-maxed build, you're probably just going to lose. But you can do so many things to make the game a little bit easier, a little bit harder. There's a lot of experimentation here. There's a lot of things you can do every single run to make the game that much more interesting, that much more fun. So those are elements I like as well. And recently they just added the Ascendancy Pantheon. So whenever you finish a playthrough with a certain ruler, you can get a new Ascendancy trait. And not only that, but also your transformations, they can carry over into the next playthrough, specifically for your hero. And in future playthroughs, you can hire these heroes with all those ascended traits and transformations. That's really cool. I like that. I think I kind of liked, though, the Empire system a little bit more in the previous game in Planetfall, but that came out at the end of its development cycle, I think for the last DLC. So we don't have that yet. I don't know how much they're going to add into the game with Eldritch DLC. The Eldritch DLC could very well be huge and add a whole lot. We'll see. I really do hope they go all out, though, with the Eldritch DLC. But of course, we'll see. We're waiting. We'll find out. Anyways, though, if you enjoy 4X's, you enjoy games like these, I would suggest pick it up. It's fun. I would also suggest pick up Planetfall. There's a bunch of issues with Planetfall that are improved upon here in this game, but it's like they did a bunch of trade-offs, right? Certain things that were good in Planetfall, you won't find in Age of Wonders 4, and a bunch of things that are bad in Planetfall, you will find fixed in Age of Wonders 4. So it's basically a game that flips a lot of the goods and bads. And in the end, it's fun. I enjoy it. Both games are separate experiences, and I would just suggest you play either one. But I will state this one last thing. Planetfall crashes a lot more than Age of Wonders 4. Age of Wonders 4, you're still going to have an occasional crash in the game. That is really frustrating that these games just have... They also have a couple of bugs that can either break the game, where you literally cannot finish a turn because one of the AI cannot figure out how they want to make a move. For whatever it is they're doing on their side of the map, they just can't finish whatever decision process they're trying to make. So you'll just be stuck, and you'll have to be jury rigging to figure out, okay, do I move my unit here? Do I have to rewind a couple of turns or one turn to figure out, okay, just move differently, and then the AI is going to do things differently because I rewinded time, and now it's fine, and now we can continue from here. There's going to be a couple of bugs that you're going to run into, and also you will have a couple of crashes. It's much less than Planetfall. Planetfall. Dude, Planetfall was so bad. You were crashing so often with that game, so that is an improvement here with this game. Less crashes. But anyways, if you enjoy strategy games, then I would definitely say that this one's well worth it. And I'm sorry, before we head out, I did forget to mention this. There is wokeness in the game. Although you can specifically make your cultures be of one race, and if you do humans, you can make them be of one skin color, rather than these kind of ESG diversity hellpot pools of people that a lot of modern games, that's what they do. So you can make a choice on what kind of skin color, and that will be shown through the rest of your people, of your specific civilization that you're making. But another thing that they do here with this game is that it is low-key woke. The women, bro, they look like freaking men. They have man jaws, they have man noses. Every element of them looks like a freaking dude. The women are not sexy, they're not attractive. A lot of them are very frumpy, gross, masculine. Freaking hate it, bro. And not only that, but it is pretty much impossible to make an attractive female. You can't make a thin, tight, big breasted chick. You can't freaking do it. It's pretty much impossible. You can make a chick that's barely attractive, but it's like, golly, bro. I mean, it's like asking, hey, I'm really attracted to women. I would love to meet a woman, and someone just shows you a dog. And you're like, yeah, that's not. And then they put boobs on the dog, and it's like, yeah, that's not what I asked for. That's pretty much what this game is, okay? You're not getting what you asked for. You want women, okay, you listen, you're getting cucked out by the developers. They don't want you to see attractive women. They'd rather you look at women with mongrel genetics and women who basically look like men. It's like, how the frick are people reproducing when women look like frickin' this? Yeah, dude, I don't know. I have no idea what they were thinking, but okay. We're just going to throw in ESG women, ugly women, freaking hate my life, okay. And the other thing too is that they do place into the roles of like certain unit types, certain units within their little squad formations, they'll just be women. You have warrior females, women who are actual warriors with like two-handed axes, women with spears, women dressed up like men, ready for freaking war. Makes no sense. It's an absolute joke. The feminism is off the charts with this one, bro. It's just freaking egalitarian warriors. It makes no sense. You know what it should be? It should be only men, because men go to war, okay? And if there's any women, it should just be sexy chicks strung about in different areas, and you can just see, you know, Conan style, sexy women around like a king or whatever, something. Place women though, sexy women around the men, and that's it. But for some reason, we make the women look like men, and we make them warriors. So just keep that in mind. Listen, it's a freaking woke game. It has ESG characters in it. Or ESG character models, whatever. ESG casting choices. It's annoying, I don't like it. But anyways, with all that being said, I do enjoy the game, and I do enjoy the gameplay, so we'll leave it off there.